Hi Virgo, and welcome to your June 2024 horoscope. June should feel a lot less chaotic than April and May did. April and May were kind of crazy. We had eclipse season, Pluto retrograde, we had Jupiter entering Gemini. And in May, on the other hand, we have Mars entering Taurus, which is more of a calm, peace, serenity type of sign. And we also have the Sun and Venus entering Cancer, which should also help bring a little bit more of this introspective, emotional energy as well. I hope you're excited about the shift. We start off the month on June 2nd with Jupiter trining Pluto. Jupiter entered Gemini right at the end of May, and if you missed the live that I did, talking about all of the zodiac signs and what they can expect with Jupiter and Gemini, then I'll leave the link to the video right here so that you can still watch it. But the trine with Pluto is a really interesting way for Jupiter to start its voyage through Gemini. It's really highlighting the story of the way that we let our fears hold us back from achieving the greatest opportunities, about how often we can be really afraid of success and finding out our own true power and purpose and holding ourselves back in a way from all of the opportunities that life throws our way. This trine is also highlighting the fact that sometimes we have to let things go. We have to let things die before we can bring new wonderful things into our life as well. And specifically for you, Virgo, you are being asked to let go of anything in your routine that is holding you back from achieving the greatest accomplishments that you could ever think of in regards to your career. Any things holding you back from thinking that you are always a student, thinking that you always have work to do and that you always have to continue studying under somebody before you can reach your great success. I know, Virgo, that can definitely be that sort of reach for perfection can often be there for all of us. Trust me, I'm a Virgo moon, I know. So really be curious at the beginning of June, because it might become more obvious what are the parts that you need to let go. What are the ways that you are holding yourself back from achieving everything that you've ever wanted to achieve. Next, let's talk a bit more about the Sun and Venus. The Sun and Venus are actually quite prominent in the month of June. They have a lot of transits, so they're definitely going to be front and center. On June 3rd, they sextile the North Node, starting off their very chatty month ahead. The North Node in Aries is asking all of us collectively to be courageous, to do the things that we fear, to stand up for ourselves. And for you specifically, because the Sun and Venus are in your 10th house, Virgo, you are facing something in your career that is pushing you towards that is pushing you to be courageous, that is pushing you to stand up for yourself and do the scary things. The Sun and Venus become conjunct just a day later on June 4th, and they are conjunct in your 10th house. And because this is so close to the sextile with the North Node, I really cannot help but see this as a nice little consequence, a nice little benefit, a nice little boost that might come to the area of your career when you act in a courageous way, when you step towards that energy that the North Node is asking from you. But let's continue talking about your career, Virgo, because we have a new moon in your 10th house as well. The new moon in Gemini will be happening on June 6th. One thing to note about this new moon is that the Sun and Venus are working towards a square to Saturn. And even though that square is not exact during the new moon, it's still quite close. So you might still feel the restrictive energy of Saturn. So you might have something new that you want to start in terms of your career, But Saturn might be putting a hold to it or making it go a little bit slower than you expected. One piece of advice that I always offer with Saturn is to not become discouraged. I know it's easier said than done. Trust me, I'm going through a Saturn return right now. But one thing that we have to keep in mind with a Saturn transit is that we can still get to our end destination. We might just have to do it in a different way. The square with Saturn happens on June 8th and 9th. So on June 8th, Venus will square Saturn, and on June 9th, the Sun will square Saturn. So you might feel this restrictiveness growing and reaching a crescendo all the way up until June 8th and 9th. And what is really interesting about June 9th is that we also have Mars entering the sign of Taurus on this day. So Mars entering the sign of Taurus might slow down our motivation, our action, our energy a little bit more. You might feel a little bit more focused on pursuing gentle activities, taking time to rest. And whatever actions you're going to take might be a little bit more slow paced in general as well. So completely like this shift with this new moon, the square with Saturn, Mars entering Taurus, just take it easy. There's no need to accomplish anything during these couple of days. And if you're going slower than expected, if things are taking longer than expected, then I want to let you know that that is completely okay. So as Mars enters Taurus, it also squares Pluto. And this is happening on June 11th. This could be a very challenging day. Mars and Pluto can be quite heavy planets. There's also a square between them, which can also be a more challenging transit, a transit that's difficult to ignore. We usually have to face it because it's happening right in front of our eyes. It's really uncomfortable. And for you specifically, Virgo, it's highlighting your 9th and 6th house. Mars in the 9th, Pluto in the 6th. How this could manifest is that all of the actions you're taking around expanding your mind, around any education, any travel that you're doing, is making you face some of the fears you have around your routine. It's making you perhaps face some of the fears that you have around what becomes of you when you don't have a routine. Who are you without your routine? And, if I had to give an example, this would be the idea that you go on a holiday, you have a really wonderful time, but as a result, you lose some of these integral parts of your routine, working out, eating healthy. And you might have to face some of the fears that Pluto brings with it. Maybe fears around how this is not okay, inexplainable fears that perhaps this is going to have a huge impact on your health, to the extent where it's not a healthy type of fear. It's a fear that definitely has to do a little bit more with a psychological perhaps wound within us instead of a really basic fear that's based on reality. So be really open during this time around anything that's coming up. Note it down. Be curious about it. And really remember that you can be courageous and that these fears don't have to control your life. But now that we've talked about Mars and Pluto, let's go back to the Sun and Venus, right? I mean, that's a little bit more nice to talk about anyways. So the Venus has traveled quite fast through Gemini. It's now at the final degree of Gemini, ready to enter Cancer. But before it does that, it squares Neptune on its way out. The Sun is literally right behind Venus. So a couple of days later, it also squares Neptune on its way out of Gemini. So on June 16th, Venus squares Neptune, and on June 20th, the Sun squares Neptune. So around these 4 days, any illusions that you might have around your relationships might start to become a bit more apparent. You might start to see that, wait a second, I'm actually looking at this with my rose-colored glasses on, and I should take them off and look at it the way it really is. So just be really open during this time, really aware of what is being revealed to you. After they square Neptune, Venus and the Sun enter Cancer, or your 11th house. So on the 17th, Venus enters Cancer, and on the 21st, the Sun enters Cancer. So there's a little bit more of your energy directed from your career, more of the immediate way that people view you, a little bit more towards, wait a second, where do I want to go? What direction do I want my life to take? Do I have any goals? You might start to become, towards the second part of June, really aware of the future. And this 11th house will be further highlighted on June 22nd when we have a full moon in Capricorn. So Capricorn will be in your 5th house, the moon in Capricorn will be in your 5th house and the sun in your 11th. A full moon can mean that there is a piece of information being revealed to us that we were not aware of before. And specifically for you, it might be something that's revealed to you while you're doing your hobbies, or while you're having fun, or eating amazing food, or dancing, whatever it is that you do for fun and for pleasure. And it might give you a lot more awareness about the direction of life you want to take. And this can manifest in so many different ways. But one example is that while you're painting one Saturday afternoon, you realize that you actually really enjoy working with your hands. And as a result, you start to shift your goals, your long-term future planning goals, so that you can incorporate more of these hands-oriented activities into your life. Venus has 2 more transits to go in the month of June. On June 26th, Venus squares the nodes. At the beginning of June, on June 3rd, Venus sextiled the North Node, and it brought up this need within us to be courageous, be independent. And now on the 26th, it will do that again. This time, however, the trigger will come from a different part of our life. Whereas at the beginning of June, the trigger came from our workspace, now the trigger is our goals and our future ambitions. It's almost as if you start to realize that some of your goals are scary. Some of your goals require you to be courageous, to step out of your comfort zone, to stand up for yourself, to not be so reliant on others, but really admit that you're cool and unique and you're your own individual. The last Venus transit is happening on June 28th when Venus sextiles Mars. This is a really beautiful transit between your 9th and your 11th house, Virgo. All of the goals you've been thinking about, all of the attention you've been giving to your future, how you want that to look like, is on this day making it much more easier for you to focus on expansion. It's making it much more easier for you to find new opportunities for travel, to find the right books that you need to read to get you there, to start to shift your belief systems and just allow yourself to prepare for this great expansion that's coming in the future. And finally, we cannot close off the month without talking about one of the biggest events, which is Saturn going retrograde. Saturn goes retrograde on June 29th, so right at the end of the month. And it will be retrograde until November. Saturn entered Pisces, or your 7th house, in March of 2023. And now that it's retrograde, it's asking you to reflect and reconsider as to whether you've been mature when it comes to your relationships, whether you have been an adult with self-discipline, an adult that has shown up to the hard work, that has not been afraid of putting in the work when it comes to your relationships. And to really give you time to reflect and see whether when Saturn goes direct in November, you want to do something differently. So overall, Virgo, the month of June, there will be a lot of focus on your career and future thinking. You're very much focused on the future and where you want to get to and how you're going to get there. And there's a little bit of relationships sprinkled in there as well. So you might see that theme coming up too. I hope you're excited for June. Let me know down below if you're excited for Saturn going retrograde as well. It's a big transit, or it's a big astrological event, I should say. And one more thing before I let you go, I am doing a giveaway. When we reach 1,000 subscribers on the channel, I will give a free reading to one of you. So if you want to make sure you get a chance to qualify, a chance to win the free reading, then make sure you subscribe. I hope to see you again soon.